as a recruiter, we're placing people into businesses. If we're placing them into a business which we know is full of arseholes or is full of people you wouldn't want to spend time with, I have to have a certain level of responsibility. By putting people into progressive businesses who do want to make the world a better place, like we're putting candidates into environments which are good and they're going to thrive in.
Initiating becoming a hiring machine sequence in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Sam Keenley, and welcome to Becoming a Hiring Machine. This is the show dedicated to fixing recruitment by going beyond saying what needs to change and instead teaches you how to make that change. Today, we've got a great interview ahead of us, but before we get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about the show. Essentially, we have shows within the show here. Some days we have interviews with industry thought leaders and others who are shaking up the space. Other days we cover trending topics, items that recruiters are talking about or will be very soon and what those mean for them. Drop by every Tuesday for a Tactical Tuesday episode where we go deep on how to do something that's going to help you drive better results in your day-to-day. Some days we even open it up for Q&A. Listeners can drop in questions that they'd like to hear us take on, so send those to us at podcast@loxo.co. And every now and then you'll hear a mic drop episode from Matt where he stops by to share something that he's been thinking about within the recruitment space and wants you to know. Today's guest, he has definitely piqued my curiosity about what an agency does by leading into what they do with, as they self-describe, in the UK, you are never more than 6 feet away from a recruitment business owner. There's a reason there are nearly 40,000 recruitment agencies in the UK, because on the face of it, it's an easy gig. Well, it is extremely easy to be a very bad recruiter, but it's extremely difficult to be a very good recruiter. So talk about a hot take right there. I love it. I don't want to steal any more thunder from today's guest and his point of view. So let me introduce you to Will Grassoff, founder and managing director of OX7 Talent Partners. Will, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So as I said, like that value prop, it absolutely cracks me up. So you're clearly not scared to make an enemy of like the standard agency, and especially in a place that's so concentrated. So where did that come from?
Yeah, good question. So, do you know what? I think it came from a place of being treated like shit by agencies, pre me working in recruitment. So, I think there was a pretty long time where really bad practice was, generally accepted as the norm by people, right? So you would apply for an agency for a job, you might get a phone call. If you do get a phone call, it's going to be for like a 5 minute conversation. All that person you were talking to really cared about was getting a few key particular bits of information, which usually included where else you were interviewing and, so just some, really vague conversation. Sometimes you'd never hear back from them, or it was just all around a really bad experience. And when I kind of got into recruitment, I really didn't want people to feel like that, feel like I did after they'd spoken to me. So, I think I developed it through a hatred of kind of these what I call like corporate agencies who, tend to be rather large and treat everybody like a number, or essentially just see people as like with a pound or a dollar sign above their head and not actually realizing that there's a human being behind it. So yeah, when I kind of got into recruitment, I really wanted to give a different service to the ones I'd received in the past.
Yeah. And that is clearly relevant and shows with the content that you, the team, share on LinkedIn, on TikTok. Like a lot of it is based in comedy. So I already know all of the objections y'all probably get. Like, aren't you trying to get leads? Don't you want to be taken seriously? Like, answered all like those different objections there. So you personally have described recruitment as the art of attraction and the science of persuasion. So tell me the reality of like what this content has done for you in your business development efforts, because I have a hunch that you're using a unique 1-2 punch here where comedy is that art of attraction, and then you've probably got a pretty solid uppercut on the back end that covers your persuasion piece.
Yeah, so what we try to do is we use like the comedy and the content to humanize ourselves, for people to see that actually there's real human beings the other side of the emails, of the telephone calls, of like the Zooms and stuff, who are quite self-aware. So a lot of the skits we do and a lot of the video and content we make is like basically holding a mirror up to other agencies saying, look, this is actually what you're like. We're parodying it and taking the mickey, but this is actually how you operate. How rubbish is that? But we know that it resonates huge amounts with candidates and clients who are kind of like, okay, cool, you don't take yourself too seriously, but actually the messages you're portraying and kind of how you're presenting it tells me that you're actually very switched on and quite clever. Because what we get a lot of pushback from, or a lot of feedback from other agencies who say, well, surely people just think you're idiots and you're clowns and you're just messing around. And I mean, they're partially right, but I mean, actually, when you look at it in a slightly deeper way and look beyond the face value, there is actually, relatively clever messages in there, which we kind of try to put out there without being really overtly, obviously saying, I don't know, your way of doing it is rubbish, or your way of doing it is terrible. We're the best. This is how we do it. We're excellent. We try and do it a bit more, a bit more subtly than that. So we that's why we try and use it. And like I say, the humanizing element to it is the most important part, because what I want people to do is to see that actually that the people in the videos who are all employees have different personalities, and that's a reflection of like wider society. Everybody's different, nobody's the same, and actually you don't have to conform to like one large corporate company's vision of what a recruiter should be. It should be extremely professional. You should wear a shirt and tie. You should call everyone Sarah and Madam, and you should, I like we'd like no. Well, actually, people are individuals. We deal with human beings, and people deserve to be treated like human beings. And actually, doing videos like this or like what we do helps people to kind of relate to us, and there's a whole myriad of benefits when you've got a candidate and a client who feels like they can really relate to you and open up to you, because in terms of taking a brief and whatnot, it really kind of opens that out.
Yeah, so there's two different parts that I want to get into with that. The first I'm going to tie into exactly what you just kind of wound down with there. So I bet you get a good bit of inbounds, people that want to talk to you because of this. They can relate to you and everything there. So that first conversation, I bet, is wildly different with you all than with like the traditional agency, where it's like they almost have to feel like they're interviewing for like their conversation itself, versus I bet they come into it, they're like, oh, Will, what's up, how's it going, man? Like it's probably just a much
Yeah,
different dynamic. So is that something that you've noticed as a result of it?
unequivocally, yeah. And it's really funny actually, because like without sounding like arrogant or big-headed, like all the time people say, yeah, I've seen your videos, like, I love them, they're really good, and they're really funny, they made me laugh, all of this kind of stuff. And it does surprise me, and slightly overwhelms me how many people do see it, remember it, and kind of retain that information to when we speak. Because when, like, you're right, when we have conversations with candidates all the time, they will say, "Oh, I saw your stuff on LinkedIn, but I saw you advertise this job, and I thought I would contact you."
Hmm.
So, like, the seed is kind of planted in their head, and then when we put something out which is super relevant to them, i.e., like a job they want to apply for, they remember us, and then when we're having a conversation with them, they feel like they already know us. So, rather than having a really dry, cold, like sterile conversation, there's an immediate ability to build rapport really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of, for me, makes life so much easier, because rather than having to really struggle and really work hard to win someone's affection and approval and like all of this, which as a recruiter you kind of do have to do that with candidates. You want them to kind of buy into you. We kind of try and skip a few steps by kind of showing them a video, or them seeing the videos and saying, actually, look, we're relatable, we know what we're talking about, we're self-aware, and we obviously try to make people laugh. So it does skip a few steps ahead, so we can go straight into the kind of, look, we're going to get on. Let's try and do well for each other, which
Mm-hmm.
is what I think recruitment misses quite a lot.
Yeah, and you said something in there that's so important, and I want people to pick up on, is you said that people see and remember you as a result of this. When you're in as concentrated of a place as you are, it's really easy to be seen as we're a recruiting agency, we can help, but the remembering is the biggest part of it, and especially how you then said like you'll post a job or you share something that's relevant to them, like that's when they're ready, when they pick up something, it's not like, well, let me go check out Will and see what kind of sketchy agency I'm about to get touched with. Like, oh, it's like, yeah, I know their stuff already. I feel like I know they're good dudes and everything. So I like that. And then to wind back to the beginning when you were talking about your messaging and being seen as clever, I think this is a very underutilized tactic, because what you can do with it is you can, with like a tongue in cheek, almost say like why the existing way doesn't work, why the other agencies aren't cutting it. And what you're doing there is you're getting the other whether it's your prospects, accounts, you're getting them to think and really
Yeah.
understand, like, is the way I'm doing it now just because this is what I know, or is it really the best way? And I think that's where your angle plays in so well, because you can do that in a self-deprecating way where it's not undercutting them by any means, but it's just like, think a little bit for yourself first before you get into this.
Yeah, and do you know what? It works quite well because not many people are going to kind of jump on in like comments and whatnot and say that, hold on, no, like they don't argue it because they're like, if they, by doing that they would be admitting that they do that stuff and that they're maybe not the best recruiters or whatnot, or use the best practice. So
Mm.
it's quite a subtly clever way of like not allowing people to snap back. And there probably is people who sit behind keyboards and screens and kind of see it and think, oh, you know that is what we do, and I wish I could say something, but I just can't. So, yeah, it works quite well for us from that perspective because we don't get huge amounts of. Obviously, we get people who miss the fact that a lot of the stuff we do is satire, and personally, I love that. Like, I love it when someone thinks it's serious, or that we're being serious, because A, it means it's extremely well acted, and the messaging is good. But B, I just think it's crazy that some people can live their lives like missing stuff like that, missing that level of satire. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's something I've noticed, especially when you look at the US versus the UK markets. Like, satire is such a, that type of humor works so well in the UK and the US. So I lived in the North for a while where sarcasm, satire, it's all kind of the same thing. I moved to the South and I realized that sarcasm is not a thing. People don't get it and they always think you're just dead serious. So I'm just like, no, it's called dark humor. It's called satire. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so when it works, it definitely works. So hopefully it starts to bridge its way over here. But yeah, you clearly know where you are and how it works. So to move a little bit from the content side almost into, I don't want to call it the serious side of things now, but one of the things that you all focus on is you pride yourselves on saying you have the ability to attract the best quality candidates, and it's what you've excelled at since day one. You do this through your ability to comprehend and execute a brief, means that you have said that people have said a lot of nice things about you all. So essentially, like, let's get into that brief bit and how you do attract quality candidates, because I think those are two things that's like, it's really easy to say and write on paper, but what goes into that on the back end for you all?
Yeah, of course. So I think what is a quality candidate is extremely subjective, right? So what one company feels is quality and is right for them is completely different to what
Mm-hmm.
someone else does. So what I find would happen quite a lot, in kind of previous agencies and whatnot, there would be huge levels of assumptions made. So, oh no, these guys work in this industry, therefore they're going to like this kind of person, and this is what's going to suit them. And there would be no emphasis on taking a proper brief. They'd be like, yeah, just send me the job description, I'll look through it, and I'll send you the best people. There's been like an accepted level of incompetence, I found, for years and years, where this was an accepted practice that you would do. So what I say is our job is to get in between the lines of the job spec, right? So great, thank you for sending me that JD. That gives me a bit of like a formal document to kind of refer to. But actually, thank you. But I'm not too fussed about that. What I want to understand is what you're looking for. So when we go on a call with a client, I always say to the client, look, just imagine that you're talking to a child. Imagine you're talking to someone who's not very intelligent and kind of doesn't really know what they're talking about, which most of the time isn't particularly hard for them to imagine. But I try and get them to not allow me to make any assumptions, because as soon as you start making assumptions, that is that's where it starts to go wrong. That's where the kind of whole kind of house of cards begins to fall down. So we have a really clear picture of what quality looks like in their mind. And then once we've got that picture of what that individual looks like, we create an advert. So we write an advert which is talking to that person. And when I get my consultants to write adverts, I always ask them to imagine they were like sat in front of the ideal candidate and they were talking to them directly, right? And that does mean that sometimes you'll use different tones of voice, you'll use different vocabulary, you'll use slightly longer form, like longer paragraphs or shorter,
Mm-hmm.
punchier, depending on who it is, because you need to be adaptable. So we'll create all of that, and then what we'll do is we'll create a video description. So I don't think I've seen many agencies do it, especially to the level that we do it, where the consultant will stand in front of a camera, they will record a 2 to 3 minute video on what the clients are looking for, and they're very descriptive about it. So it's all about demonstrating to the viewer of that actually we know what we're talking about. And as a recruiter, our duty of care is to give the candidate the best possible chance of getting the job. Because otherwise, why would they bother using us? They just might as well go straight to a client. So we need to make sure that candidate has utmost confidence in us. Tells them we know what we're talking about. So when I said when I said we turn the heads of candidates, that's what we do. So we get people who maybe aren't looking for a role, they're quite happy in what they're doing, but we say, excuse me, look at this. Like, this is probably going to be better for you. Take a look at it, and it's personalised. The approaches and it's individual. So it is turning the head of people who then want the job rather than people who just need the job. And obviously, we see the market at the moment, and especially in certain sectors where there's a lot of people out there who need jobs, and absolutely, there's a lot of those people who are fantastic and would be great for the job as well. But we tend to find people who are already in jobs are the ones we place most frequently. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There's a handful of things I want to get into here with the brief itself. So you said you get in between the lines and everything. Can you give me a few example questions? You said like dumb it down, explain it like I'm 5, like pretend I'm a kid. But like, what are a few questions that you might pull out in that for the client that you're asking?
Okay, cool. So one of the ones we ask towards the end, so once we've understood the competencies, we say to the client, imagine I'm the best available candidate on the market, right? And you really want me. I'm the person you want. But I've also interviewing with two of your best competitors or two of your biggest competitors. Why would I come and join you? What's your value proposition that's going to, make me not want to talk to those other two people, but want to come to you? Because what we're looking for is we're looking for that client to be able to articulate what a value proposition is. And so often people will go, oh, God, that's a really good question. I'm not really sure. Then they'll think about it. Then they'll start talking about why it's a great place to work. And actually, there's usually huge amounts of things that people take for granted working in companies that they don't realize are actually really good benefits because they're just used to it. It happens all the time. So we get them to kind of be prescriptive about what is great about working there. And if we ask that question and they can't answer it, they can't give us a proper answer, or it's like, well, you get annual leave, you get fruit and bean bags, it's just a good place to work. Jim from accounts does a great barbecue once a year. Like, if there's no real reason that they can give us, we say, look, I don't think we're going to be able to help you. Like, we're happy to walk away from it, because how are we meant to like sell the opportunity to a candidate if we can't give good articulate reasons why they want to go there?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't work with everyone. So that's something we certainly ask. So another question we ask, which is, again, seems like a relatively basic question, but we ask them, let's say it's Monday morning, tell me about my Monday. What am I going to be doing? What can I expect? And then it'll be, tell me about my Friday. What can I expect? What's going to happen? And then we kind of say, fill in the gaps, because what people tend to say is, oh, no day's the same. Every day's different. You're constantly doing different stuff. But we want the client to really describe what people can expect on a day-to-day basis, what they're going to have to troubleshoot, what the stakeholders they're going to have to deal with, who's going to be making their life difficult, who's going to be there to support them. Because we want to build a really big picture of what people will be doing. And I always describe it like a bit of, like a scratch card where you're scratching the little bits off to reveal the numbers or whatnot. Like, there's a whole picture there, and we want to be scratching off little bits at a time, because by the time we finish the conversation, we want to have a full picture. And what I think happens is, a lot of the time people don't scratch big areas off. There's big blocks which are still kind of there, and people just assume they know what's behind it. But actually, when they dig down, and when it comes down further down the line, they've completely got it wrong. They've got no idea. They've made assumptions that, yeah, of course you're going to work in the office 5 days a week. When, well, actually, no, you can work 3 days a week at home, because we've got this amazing cloud system which allows us to do that. So, yeah, we really try to kind of drill down from that perspective.
Yeah, and that's brilliant, because the way it all comes together so well is it goes back to what you said. A lot of times you're going after the people who, like, they might want a job, they don't need something. The top talent, especially in the exec space, like, they're usually in a role already. So how do you attract them? And it's not, your value prop question. It's not a ping pong table. It's not having kombucha on tap. It's like,
Yeah,
why is that company really better?
yeah,
And then being able to, what you're getting to is you're painting a picture so they can see themselves at this company. And that's what
yeah,
so many JDs don't do well. So how you can communicate that to them is how you go beyond attracting the people who are actively looking for jobs to getting the better, not the better people, but opening up that talent pool, so to speak, of the people that aren't looking but probably could be incredible fits for that organization if you know how to talk to them well.
yeah, absolutely. And that's it. I think it's all about kind of opening up that pool as wide as possible, getting really diverse, um, you know, like short list of people, and then kind of being left with options, to be able
Hmm.
to choose the most appropriate and the people who are gonna enhance cultures and whatnot.
So this all makes sense. I'm not surprised that you all have started to see good results, attract the candidates, like you say. So when were you able to tell, like, this is a different process? Like, it shouldn't be a different process, but it kind of is than most search firms use. So when were you able to tell that this was really starting to work for you all, from like whether it's a candidate, a client, a business perspective? Like, when did it start to click for you?
So I think it was when we started to get such frequent and consistent feedback from both candidates and clients, because I think a lot of people can fixate on the revenue that comes in, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we're in an industry where you can generate revenue very quickly and actually sometimes very easily, very luckily. So there's agencies who generate pretty good levels of revenue just by sending speculative CVs out to enough people because they know some of it will stick, right? That brilliant. That is your business model. Like, well done if you're making lots of money and you're happy with doing that. What we found is actually when we were hearing from candidates, frequently, look, this is just the best conversation I've ever had with a recruiter. The adverts you did were amazing. I was really impressed by the video descriptions, and they were then going on to get jobs. We were going on to place them, and clients were saying, God, no one's ever asked us that in a briefing session, or like I've never had free CV submitted and free interviews, like we've never had these ratios before. Like it was listening to those real life
Mm-hmm.
anecdotes, which made me think actually this is a lot better. And like I say, I use the word better, but it's different because it's horses for courses. But I think the whole industry is going through like a bit of a transformational period where AI is coming in and it is going to replace people who do mindless like tasks because you'll
Mm-hmm.
just get a piece of software to do it. So we're really trying to, humanize the process, I
Yeah.
suppose.
And I wonder if that's where it's almost, I don't want to oversimplify it, but it's like you're the quality versus quantity debate that's in every business, every industry, like talk about it anywhere. But it sounds like you all really spend your time focusing, like taking a proper brief, really talking to the right candidate. So you're not going after 1,000 candidates so you can submit 30 to the client. Like you're really finding those top people and hyper focusing on them, delivering the best possible message, content, experience, and your conversion numbers, so to speak, whether it's through the candidate funnel, working with the different biz dev side of things, it's probably a lot higher as a result because you are able to spend the time on those types of things. So you're all
Yeah.
already getting ahead of that.
Yeah, and do you know what? Just on that point, I
Yeah.
think the what we realise through doing lots of kind of outreach and trying different ways is that the best response rate you're going to get is if you do a tailored proper outreach. So people don't feel as though they're getting the same message as the other 50 people or whatever. Like they're getting an individual message like, oh my God, this person's actually talking to me. Like, rather than, because again, AI is getting very sophisticated, but I can still tell when it's an AI email. Like I
Hmm.
got one yesterday, and it definitely grabbed my attention because it was like, "Oh, I see you went to Magdalen College School." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I did do that." And but then it said I had a friend who went there who loved the scenic walks. I heard it's really cool, and I was like, "Oh, okay, well that's bollocks then because it's a shithole. Like there's no scenic walks around here. Like what you want about?" So like I pretty much feel that
Hmm.
people want to have the genuine relatability,
Yeah.
and genuine to feel like, oh, that's one to me. So yeah,
Yeah. The pendulum's just going to keep swinging back and forth. It used to be just like volume, volume, volume. How do you do as most as possible? But now that's starting to be a detriment to you, where people are like, oh, this person actually spent the time to, I could tell they wrote this email. They picked up the
yeah,
phone and called me. They hand wrote this card. Like it carries so much more weight as a result that they actually are willing to read it and either say like, hey, I'm not in the market right now, but appreciate this note. Like, I'm going to keep it on file if I ever do need help, or like they'll actually reply and say like, sorry, not for me, or let's talk.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting you point that out. One final direction I want to get with you is you mentioned that you only like to work with progressive companies that are making positive changes to the world, and you want to really specialize in telling their story, giving representation to the importance that it deserves. So first tell me, like, where does this stem from? Where did this desire to work with these types of organizations come from?
Good question. I think, again, through my working career, because I had a few other careers before I went into recruitment, I worked with people, like unintentionally, I worked with them who were just bastards, who were just absolute arseholes, and they weren't making the world a better place. They were just in it for themselves to make as much money as possible, didn't care who they screwed over in the process. And I just felt like actually there's such an opportunity for people to make the world a better place. And it sounds really sycophantic and like, oh my god, it's world peace, blah blah blah. But actually, I think the more people who do little bits, to make the world better, the better. And actually, as a recruiter, we're placing people into businesses, right? If we're placing them into a business which we know is full of assholes or is full of like just people you wouldn't want to spend time with,
Mm-hmm.
I have to have a certain level of responsibility over that, right? I have to take. Well, actually, hold on. I've put you in there. So by putting people into progressive businesses who do want to make the world a better place, like we're putting candidates into environments which are good and they're going to thrive in and kind of be part of something special. As a result, less people are likely to leave in their rebate period, and they're happier there, and they'll tell their friends that we were great. So it just kind of works. And don't get me wrong, there's of course a massive underbelly of companies who need to use agencies who are maybe slightly backwards thinking or just haven't really moved with the times. And there's a massive underbelly of recruitment agencies who'd love to work with them because it's just the way they want to do it. But actually, it kind of leaves the better companies to us and progressive ones that we can work with. So yeah, I've always kind of had this desire to only want to work with companies where I would be comfortable working myself. So if I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't want to work there, if I walked in and I was like, oh God, no, I wouldn't want to work here, or people were not very nice, we wouldn't work with them. We only
Yeah.
work with people we like. Which, don't get me wrong, we've probably missed out on tons of revenue because we don't work with bastards, but
Mm-hmm.
we have much less stressful lives as a result of it. So yeah.
Yeah. It says a lot about your values. I think when candidates know that about you too, that attracts another quality of candidate. And if I was a prospective client and I got turned down by you all, I might have a good hard look in the mirror and be like, what does this say about our organization? Knowing that
Yeah.
they kind of carry this way, I'd be like, do we need to have a little internal chat and
Yeah. But
go to
the
that? So
mentality. But the thing is, they
yeah,
don't think that. They think, oh yeah, these guys, they're idiots. Why don't they want it reverse? Like they don't realize they had a problem. Like that.
that's
Am I the
true.
problem? Like it's yeah. Do you know?
We're
They
giving
don't
them too
think
much
that.
credit. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to come back. You mentioned a rebate. I want to come back to that in a minute, but how do you vet for these types of organizations before we get to that? Like, is it just kind of like a vibe that you feel, or what do you do to go about that?
Yeah, there's a bit of both. So there's a bit of a gut feeling we get when we talk to them. We obviously look on social media. So, we do a bit of due diligence on things like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Like we try and pick up on the company voice and the culture. And you can tell quite a lot. Like a lot of companies won't put much of their people online because probably they're not particularly happy. They wouldn't be smiling and stuff, and they don't do fun stuff like that. So that's usually one red flag, right? And then when we get into the conversation, with them, and we ask them questions about the business, about the culture, and all that kind of stuff, like you can tell when someone is kind of trying to give you a slightly what's the word like false narrative or false
Mm-hmm.
kind of representation
Yeah.
of what it's like. You can see when there's lots of attrition in the company, right? And when there's lots of attrition, lots of short stints, it's because that company is very good at telling people it's a great place to work, but when they actually get in there and they realize it's horrendous, they leave pretty quickly. So we've got quite good at kind of using these different elements and kind of putting them together and creating like a viewpoint. So there is some kind of quantitative data in there, and there's some qualitative data that we kind of look at. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, in this day and age, places like Glassdoor, Google reviews, it's so easy for people to go in there and kind of give an honest appraisal. Now, don't get me wrong, you have to take them a little bit of a pinch of salt and understand that most people, will only leave a review if they're really unhappy, and it completely ignores all the people who are,
Mm-hmm.
perfectly happy in roles. So, but yeah, we try to build up a really wide kind of picture of it all, really.
Yeah, multiple data points. So just how it should be.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be one singular one that overweighs everything, but it's the aggregation of all those to get
yeah.
that sense. So let's get into that rebate that you talked a little bit about, because I think this kind of, it's like not just talk the talk, but you walk the walk with that. So explain how the rebates work with you all and what you do.
Yeah, so our we do 100% money back with a lot of clients. So we'll give them all of their money back if the candidate leaves in the first 3 months. Um, there's a few conditions to that, i.e., that we're working exclusively, and we're able to take a brief and all of that. We can do a proper process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think where it's such for me, like if someone's paying a recruitment fee, it's a large investment. I don't care what anyone says, it's a lot of money for people to pay, and they need to have some form of reassurance that actually, if something does go wrong, because sometimes it does, they're protected.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's a big kind of thought process that as soon as the person who plays steps foot in that client's door, it's on the client then to retain them and to kind of keep them happy and to keep them there. It's no responsibility of the recruiter. Well, actually, I think it is. Like, I think,
Mm-hmm.
we've screened them, we found them, we've pitched it to them. If we've got something wrong, or there's something, like they have to move because a family member is ill or whatever, for whatever reason, I think it's important clients know they're protected. And actually, I think it's important that they know that we back our process to an extent that we're prepared to give money back or replace someone for free. Like, I think it's important they feel that, rather than just being like, well, once they're in there, it's on you. Like, we don't give a shit. Thank you very much. Pay your invoice. See you later. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be a long-term partnership vision with it. So I think the rebate part of it's really important.
Yeah, it's not just filling a seat, it's finding a perfect fit. Like, that's why, as you said, that's why they hire a recruiter. It's to find the perfect fit individual for their organization, not just like anyone can go and I can go post a job for you on Indeed and get you someone in the door, but like, are they going to be the best person? I don't know. Like, that's a huge part of it. So no, this has been absolutely fascinating. Any other topics or things that I missed that you think that we should chat about real quick?
Oh, well, I don't know. I feel like we've covered so much in such a short period of time.
Okay, I love it. Well, this was fun. So before I go through my wrap up spiel, like, where can people find out more about you? Where can people check out your content and your company?
Cool. So LinkedIn is probably where you can find most of the stuff. So I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So look for Will Grassoff and OX7 Talent Partners. And yeah, obviously connect with me. I love kind of connecting with like-minded people. So yeah, come and find me. We're on TikTok as well. So we're really trying to grow our TikTok at the moment, which is really difficult because TikTok can be a bit of a toxic place sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're doing quite well with the recruiter parody stuff there. So yeah, look for us somewhere as well.
I love it. I might have to grab Lex, our head of brand and content, to pick your brain a little bit there about that, because it's one of those channels that we've been like, do we do it? Do we not do it? If we do it, we have to do it properly. And yeah, I think you all have definitely taken the right angle with it. So, Will, this has been a ton of fun. I really appreciate you taking the time to join me on the show. Like, I know this knowledge, I've learned a lot from it, and I already know other recruiters are going to start incorporating this in their day-to-day moving forward. So truly, truly appreciate it. So as we wrap, Becoming a Hiring Machine is a production of Loxo. Find the show notes from this episode in your favorite podcast streaming platforms, as well as on our website. Full video episodes available if you want to see our beautiful faces on YouTube. It's on the website as well. And if you have questions for us, looking for advice, send it over to us, podcast@loxo.co. So, all right, everyone. That was a phenomenal interview with Will Grassoff. Appreciate you joining again. Until next time. Bye, y'all.